Hello there, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good morning to all of you. Here's Miss Ikra, and I welcome you to your library lesson. Students, do you remember which story we read last week? It was the Railway Children. And do you remember what happened in the story in the last lesson? We read about 3.5 chapters, and it all began from the birthday party where mom, dad, and the kids were celebrating, but then all of a sudden their dad disappeared and they became poor. They had to live at the countryside. And the point where we left the story was we were at chapter number 3, Ready for Danger. Bobby, Phyllis, and Peter, they were just walking down this railway track, and all of a sudden they see something and they see some sort of danger. Now let's read along. "Look at that tree!" cried Peter. The tree was moving, not like a normal tree when the wind blows, but all in one piece. All the trees on the bank seemed to be slowly sliding downhill like a marching army. Suddenly, rocks, trees, grasses, bushes, and earth gathered speed in a deafening roar and collapsed in a heap on the railway track. "I don't like it!" shrieked Phyllis. "It's much too magic for me." "It's all coming down," said Peter in a shaky voice. Then he cried out, "Oh!" The others looked at him. "The 11:29 train! It'll be along any minute. There'll be a terrible accident. Can we run to the station and tell them?" Bobby began. "No time. We need to warn the driver somehow." "What can we do?" "Our red petticoats!" Bobby exclaimed. "Red for danger? We'll tear them up and use them as flags." "We can't rip our clothes," Phyllis objected. "What will Mother say?" "She won't mind." Bobby was undoing her petticoat as she spoke. "Don't you see, Phil? If we don't stop the train in time, people might be killed." They quickly snapped thin branches off the nearby trees, tore up the petticoats, and made them into flags. "Two each, wave one in hand, and stand on the track so the train can see us," Peter directed. "Then jump out of the way." Phyllis was gasping with fright. "It's dangerous. I don't like it." "Think of saving the train," Bobby implored. "That's what matters most." "It's coming," called Peter, though his voice was instantly wiped out in a whirlwind of sound as the roaring train thundered nearer and nearer. Bobby waved her flags furiously. She was sure it was no good, that the train would never see them in time. "Move!" shouted Peter as the train's steam surrounded them in a cloud of white. But Bobby couldn't. She had to make it stop. With a judder and squeal of brakes, the train shuddered to a halt and the driver jumped out. "What's going on?" Peter and Phyllis showed him the landslide, but not Bobby. She had fainted and lay on the track, white and quiet as a fallen statue, still gripping her petticoat flags. The driver picked her up and put her in one of the first-class carriages. Peter and Phyllis were worried until finally Bobby began to cry. "You kids saved the lives today," said the driver. "I expect the railway company will give you a reward." "Just like real heroes and heroines?" breathed Phyllis. Chapter 4: The Terrible Secret. The railway company did want to reward the children. There was a ceremony at the station with a brass band, bunting, and cake. All the passengers who had been on the train were there, as well as the railway director, the train driver, Mr. Perks, and the best of all, their own old gentleman. The railway director made a speech praising the children, which they found very embarrassing, and gave them each a gold watch. When it was all over, the old gentleman shook their hands. "Oh, do come back for tea," said Phyllis. They climbed up the hill together. Bobby carried the magazines Mr. Perks had collected for her. He'd made a parcel of them, wrapped in an old sheet of newspaper. Back home, Mother, Phyllis, and Peter chatted with the old gentleman. Bobby went into her room to sort through the magazines. She undid the newspaper wrapping and idly looked at the print. Then she stared. Her feet went icy cold and her face burned. When she had read it all, she drew a long, uneven breath. "So now I know," she thought. It was a report of a spy trial with a photograph of the accused. It was a photograph of father. Underneath it said, "Guilty," and then 5 years in jail. Bobby scrunched up the paper. "Oh, Daddy," she whispered, "you never did it." Time passed. The old gentleman left and it grew dark outside. Supper was ready, but Bobby couldn't join the others. Mother came to find her. "What's the matter?" she asked. Bobby held out the paper. "Tell me about it," she begged. Mother told her how father had been arrested for being a spy. Papers had been found in his desk that proved he had sold his country's secrets to enemies. "Didn't they know he'd never do such a thing?" Bobby asked. "There was a man in his office he never quite trusted," Mother replied. "I think he planted those papers on father." "Why didn't you tell the lawyers that?" Bobby wanted to know. "Do you think I didn't try everything?" Mother demanded. "We just have to be patient and wait for him to come back to us." "Why didn't you tell us? Are you going to tell the others now you know?" "No," said Bobby. "Why?" Bobby thought hard. "Because it would only upset them." "Exactly," said her mother. "But now you found out, we must help each other to be brave." They went into supper together. And though Bobby's eyes were still red with tears, Peter and Phyllis never guessed why. Chapter number 5: The Man in the Train. The long, cold winter blossomed into spring and then summer. Bobby couldn't bear the way time passed with nothing happening. Mother was unhappy, father was in prison, and she couldn't do anything to help. So she wrote a letter. And once more it was to the old gentleman. Dear friend, Mother says we are not to ask for things for ourselves, but this isn't for me. You see what it says in this paper? It isn't true. Father is not a spy. Could you find out who did it? And then they would let father out of prison. If it was your daddy, what would you feel? Please help me. Love, from your good friend, Bobby. Soon after she sent the letter, Bobby had her 12th birthday. Mother gave a bracelet she no longer wore. Peter and Phyllis made a cake, and Mr. Perks brought a bunch of flowers from his garden. It was very different from her last birthday when she'd had a huge party and lots of presents. This one was happy enough, but Bobby missed father so badly, her mind was filled with wanting him. Then, one late summer's day, when the roses were out and the corn was ripening to gold, Bobby found it impossible to concentrate on her lessons. Please, Mother, she begged, can I go outside? Do you have a headache? Asked Mother. Bobby thought, not really. She replied, I just feel in a daze. I'd be more alive in the fresh air, I think. Mother let her go, and Bobby found herself walking down the station. She felt as if she were in a dream. At the station, everyone smiled at her, and Mr. Perks shook her hand up and down. I saw it in the papers, he grinned. I'm so pleased. And here comes the 11:54 London train. Bang on time. So what in the papers? Bobby asked, puzzled, but Mr. Perks had turned away, blowing his whistle. As the train drew into the station, Bobby was astonished to see handkerchiefs fluttering from every window. Only 3 people got out. An old woman with a basket of squawking hens, the grocer's wife with some brown paper packages, and the third, oh, my daddy! My daddy! Bobby's cry pierced the air. People looked out of the windows to see a tall, thin man and a little girl rush up to each other with open arms. I felt something strange was going to happen today, said Bobby as they walked up the hill. But I never guessed what. Didn't Mother get my letter? Father asked. There weren't any letters this morning, Bobby replied. Mother wrote to tell me you'd found out, he said. You've been wonderful. The old gentleman has too. He helped them catch the real spy. Now, Bobby, run ahead and tell your mother and Peter and Phyllis I'm home. He paused in the garden, looking around at the rich summer countryside with the hungry eyes of someone who has seen too little of flowers and trees and the white blue sky. Mother, Bobby, Peter, and Phyllis stood in the doorway. Father went down the path to join them. We won't follow him. In that happy moment, in that happy family, no one else is wanted just now. The end. Wow, that was a lovely story. And see how the kids patiently waited for their father? They didn't lose hope, and although they became poor, still they waited patiently. Students, this is what we should do. We should all wait patiently for things to become fine and back to normal. We should try to cooperate and live in every situation, because only then we receive rewards. Alright, students, I will see you again in the next library lesson. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.